Okay guys, here we go. As you can tell, my voice still isn't completely 100%, but good enough for now. And perhaps what I'll do is later on I'll re-record this when I do have a proper voice, but it's just important to get this stuff out now. So when I went to do this particular lesson, I had an idea about what I thought it was going to be. And when I went up to get the information and get clarity on what to do with this lesson, what I heard was they're missing something in their hearts. I go, what the hell is that about? And so I kept on asking and getting clarity and watching information come through, and it's really interesting because this lesson is about creating a new magnetic field within your heart, not so much to interact with the world itself, but a specific magnetic field that allows your body and your brain, and in particularly your nervous system, which of course includes the eyes and ears and brain, to have a different filter so that physically, on almost a physical level, you can perceive the world and perceive what's really going on underneath the surface of the world. When this world that we see and perceive as separation, perceive as outside influences being different from what we're thinking and feeling, and that it's separate, that we have to dominate the outer world in order to create what we want, and again, just going back to seeing separation. And what we're going to do in this lesson is we're going to do a process which is called awakening. What I'm calling is awakening the molecules of manifestation. And what I was shown, that there's these two molecules rotating around each other, I assume in our heart, because that's where this came from. And there is a particular process to ask for that will bring into the matrix of the two molecules a much larger number of molecules, so that there's like a much more complex matrix and a very, very different magnetic field that's being generated within the heart for the purpose of the body and the mind being able to perceive the so-called outer world through a much different filter. And it will allow us to begin to see initially at a very subtle level, that's been my experience so far, that there really is this whole one unit, so this is basically about oneness, but understanding it and seeing it from a new level. That there is not separation between what you're thinking and feeling and how the outside world is interacting with you, and how the outside world is reflecting back to you. In the last little while, what I've noticed in my own life that's been part of my education is small things like I'm in a conversation with people, or I'm listening to a conversation, and I have a question about it, and I'm thinking this question, and almost immediately I'm getting the answer from someone. Someone just pops out the answer. Now, a lot of us have had versions of that kind of experience before, lots of us, okay? But what's different is I'm beginning to understand at a deeper level that I am literally the source of how the world shows up for me. And everything that I'm experiencing is coming from me. And I'm seeing that connection at a much more deeper level, as opposed to, and it's not a linear level, it's more of a kind of a holographic thing. I'm beginning to understand and see the world as this one holographic kind of experience that's going on. excuse me, and it it it's another way of seeing at a deeper level that the so-called separation of the world really is an illusion, and that there's just one mind, one thought, one way of being. Especially, and I'm beginning to be able to recognize, especially when I'm thinking that something outside the world is acting on me, that it's opening me up to be able to see that that's not true, that that's actually some part of me is creating that experience for me. Much of the time it's not from my ego. My ego wants certain things. My ego wants this, 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 and this. My ego wants to get my stuff. My ego wants everything to be perfect. And there's nothing wrong with that. But who and what I am is much greater than just my ego, obviously. So how we've been interacting with the world is through magnetic fields, as the Greg Braden stuff talks about. But also how we are able to perceive the world, I believe, is affected by the magnetic fields that we create in our own bodies. And this new level of a larger number of molecules rotating around, creating a kind of gyroscope effect, which creates a completely different kind of magnetic field that our nervous system can begin to perceive the world and see the deeper truths of the world, not just the surface stuff that we've mostly seen. And it's literally, the shift is literally as a result of a change in how these particular molecules interact with each other, and that a certain number of them are being awakened for the first time probably in eons. And so it allows us to literally have a oneness experience. Most people may not get, or maybe they will, I don't know. You may not have one of those moments of pure grace and bliss where suddenly you see everything as one. Maybe you will, I don't know. But I don't think it's about creating that kind of emotional experience. What it is about creating is giving your body and your nervous system the correct magnetic filter to begin to perceive the world, and that opens up much more possibilities for you to be able to perceive the world at a deeper level, and a level where it does come from you, and because of that, at this new level of awareness, you're going to be much, and this understanding that you'll get, you're going to be much easier to be able to, through your own thoughts and feelings and through the magnetic fields that we create in our own bodies through our feelings, to have a much better, much easier, natural way of just allowing the world to show differently, because we begin to realize it is more and more and more and more about us, how the world shows up for us and how people respond to us, than it is about something being outside of us. It's really, really cool stuff. So I want to review for a minute. We already talked about the magnetic fields through the Greg Braden stuff. It affects the world. The magnetic fields we generate are based on what our feelings are. Our feelings are based on what our beliefs are. If we believe something means this, this, or this, then if that's the way we perceive the world, and those are the meanings that we have, then that we interpret that in a certain way, and it causes us to have a certain kind of emotional response, and that emotional response fuels our feeling state, and our feeling state fuels the magnetic fields around us, and that's what creates the world around us. So we've had different ways to manage that. Some of it is simply making a decision about what we're going to feel about stuff consciously. That's really, really important, and that's a huge step for humanity that we've been beginning to do, and a lot of that is thanks to not just the Abraham Hicks work, but many, many other people, of course, including Vienna and including tons of people. Okay, but making the decision that on a moment-to-moment basis we do have the ability to consciously choose how we feel about stuff is the first level. The second level that makes that first level easier is the belief work that we've been working with so far, where we're using the muscle testing to find out what we believe to be true, and then through the energy work that I do for you, once you identify a belief that you don't want to be true for you anymore, and we change that belief, that frees you to assign a different meaning to something that you perceive is going on outside of you. And once you've assigned a different meaning to what you perceive is going on outside of you, then that allows you to have a different feeling state associated with it. Most of the time, when you let go of the limiting belief, it allows you to have a much more relaxed, love-based as opposed to attention-filled, fear-based perception and feeling relating to that. And then when you do that, when you let go of those old beliefs and let go of those old limitations, your feelings, the feeling state you generate in your heart, and therefore the magnetic field that brings the world to you, changes. And then this process we're going to do in a few minutes in the next video below takes that to another level, where we're beginning to be able to consciously perceive the world in much more of a oneness-based kind of way. It's much easier for you to detach old meanings that you were attaching to things and see that it isn't about you being attacked, it isn't about you being affected by something outside of you. It really is something within you that's causing you to do it, and it takes the pressure off you to try and overcome something. And what the results of that will be, I don't know, but it's going to be a really, really powerful experience. Some of it is going to be really, really subtle to begin with for a lot of people, but it's a really, really clear instructions for me to give this to you at this point in the class. So we've talked about that. I just want to make sure I didn't miss any of my little notes I wanted to bring up in this. I talked about that. Talked about the magnetic fields in our hearts. We can change the way we perceive on a biological level. This is something that's like just so fundamental, a fundamental change that allows us to do all of this work even better and better. Once this happens, it becomes so much less important what our outer circumstances seems to look like to us. And when we take that pressure off, it gives it a lot more room to perceive differently, to assign different meaning, and therefore to consciously and unconsciously allow the world to come to us differently, because what we thought was true wasn't necessarily true, based on us looking at reality through this different filter. I'm hoping this is making sense. So this will allow us to allow changes to come to us without trying so hard to make things happen, and without seeing problems within us as problems, but just simply a misperception. No big deal. Okay? So I hope this all made sense. That's what this lesson is going to be about. As I said in the video below, I'm going to go through the process. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for you, if you give permission to do this, that the remaining number of molecules associated with this particular magnetic field we're going to be generating, and by the way, the number of new molecules is not 10, bringing it to a total of 12. It's a different number. For now, I'm not going to tell you exactly what the number is, but it's a really powerful number associated with some big transformation in a really powerful, natural way. When I get told to tell you what the number is, I'll do that, but for now, it's pretty cool. So I'm going to ask for this specific process. There's a specific way that I need to ask this so it's done correctly for you. If you've given permission that this happen, just say yes when I say that in the video below. I'll witness it for us all. Anybody that sees this video, anybody that's paid for this course or that's been gifted by this course will have this done. If this process is being given to somebody that hasn't paid for it or wasn't gifted by me, then the process won't work. It's only for people that have taken this course, gone through it, and have made the appropriate energy exchange through paying the very small amount of money for this course that gets to have the benefit of this process. No one else is going to get it at this point. So if you've actually paid for the course or it's been gifted to you by me and you say yes, you get to have the process done. If one of those two things is not true, somebody's just saying, hey man, here, get this cool process, it's really cool, I got it from this guy, it's not going to work. So just to make sure that that's very, very clear. And that's basically it. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you have some powerful experiences with this. And after this, we'll move on to the last 3 lessons plus the additional bonus after the lessons. Those all get taken care of in the next week. Excuse me, the next week or 2. So enjoy the process. I hope you really have a positive, powerful experience. People that do have that, having a positive experience, please give me some feedback. And have a wonderful rest of the day. Okay, guys?